The champagne bottle hitting the marble floor should have been Simone's first clue that something was terribly wrong. She stood in the doorway of her own living room, grocery bags still clutched in both hands, watching her husband Trevor spray expensive champagne all over their white sofa while a blonde woman in a red dress squealed with delight. "Trevor?" Simone's voice came out smaller than she intended. He spun around, his face flushed with alcohol and something else. Something cruel. "Simone. Perfect timing. I was just about to call you." The blonde woman draped herself over Trevor's shoulder, her manicured nails playing with his collar. She looked at Simone the way someone might look at a stray dog that wandered into a fancy restaurant. "Who's this?" the woman asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "This," Trevor said, pulling the woman closer, "is my soon-to-be ex-wife. Simone, meet Amber. Amber, this is the woman who's been holding me back for the past 8 years." Simone's grocery bags slipped from her fingers. Oranges rolled across the hardwood floor. "What are you talking about?" Trevor reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a lottery ticket. Even from across the room, Simone could see it. That ticket. The one she'd bought last Tuesday at the corner store with money from her mother's life insurance. Her mother had died 6 months ago, and that $20,000 was all she had left of her. "We won, baby," Trevor shouted, waving the ticket in the air. $600 million. Can you believe it? Simone's legs felt weak. She remembered buying that ticket. She'd been thinking about her mother, about how Grace would play the lottery every week, always saying someone had to win. Simone had stopped at the store on her way home from the lawyer's office after finalizing her mother's estate. She'd used her debit card. Her money. "Trevor, I bought that ticket." He laughed. A cold, harsh sound that Simone had never heard from him before. Or maybe she had, but she'd been too busy working double shifts at the hospital to notice. "Doesn't matter who bought it. We're married. Community property and all that. And since Amber and I are in love, and since you're basically just a roommate I got stuck with, I think it's time for you to go." Simone's mind raced. 8 years. 8 years of marriage. She'd put him through business school. She'd worked as a nurse while he found himself, through various failed ventures. She'd ignored the late nights and the perfume that wasn't hers. She'd made herself smaller and smaller to make room for his ego. "You can't kick me out of my own house," she said, her voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside her chest. "Actually," Amber chimed in, examining her nails, "this house is in Trevor's name. You signed it over 2 years ago, remember? When he said it would help with his credit?" Simone did remember. Trevor had said it was temporary. Just until his business loan went through. She trusted him. Trevor pulled out his phone and started recording. "For legal purposes, I'm asking you to leave the premises. You have until tonight to pack your personal belongings. Everything else stays." "Trevor, please. We can talk about this." "We can." "There's nothing to talk about." He stepped closer, and Simone saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Or maybe it had always been there, hidden behind the promises and the apologies. "You were convenient when I needed someone to pay the bills. But I'm worth $600 million now. I don't need you anymore. I need someone who looks good on my arm. Someone who doesn't smell like hospital disinfectant. Someone like Amber." Amber giggled and kissed Trevor's cheek, leaving a perfect lipstick mark. Simone stood there frozen. This couldn't be happening. This was her house. Her money. Her ticket. Her life. "I'm calling the police," she finally said. Trevor shrugged. "Go ahead. Tell them your name isn't on the deed. Tell them you're refusing to leave someone else's property. See how that works out for you." He was right and they both knew it. Simone had been so trusting, so stupid. She'd signed everything he asked her to sign. She'd believed every word he said. "I'll pack," she whispered. "Good girl." Trevor turned back to Amber, already dismissing Simone from his thoughts. "Where were we, baby?" "Oh right, we were planning which Caribbean island to buy first." Simone walked upstairs on numb legs. In their bedroom, no, his bedroom now, she pulled out the suitcase from under the bed. The same suitcase she'd used for their honeymoon in Hawaii. Back when she believed Trevor loved her. Back when she thought their life together meant something. She packed mechanically. Clothes. Toiletries. The framed photo of her mother that Trevor had always said made the room look cluttered. Her nursing textbooks. Her laptop. Downstairs, she could hear Trevor and Amber laughing. Making plans. Celebrating a future that was built on stolen ground. Simone dragged her suitcase down the stairs. Trevor and Amber were on the sofa now, kissing like teenagers. They didn't even look up as she passed. She stopped at the door and turned back. "Trevor." He broke away from Amber with obvious annoyance. "What?" That ticket. You should know something. What? He sounded bored. Simone wanted to tell him. Wanted to scream that she'd bought it with her mother's money. That she had proof. That he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. But something stopped her. Some instinct for self-preservation she didn't know she had. Nothing, she said quietly. I hope you enjoy the money. Trevor smirked. Oh, I will. We both will. Simone walked out into the evening air. Neighbors were in their yards watching. They'd heard everything. Mrs. Chen from next door looked away in embarrassment. Mr. Rodriguez pretended to be very interested in his roses. Simone loaded her suitcase into her 10-year-old Honda and sat in the driver's seat. She didn't start the engine. She just sat there watching the house she'd made into a home. The windows glowed warm and bright. Inside, Trevor and Amber were probably already planning how to spend her money. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend Nicole, who worked at the same hospital. Still on for coffee tomorrow? Simone stared at the message. Tomorrow felt like a concept from another life. A life where she had a home and a husband and a future that made sense. She typed back. Something came up. Can we make it breakfast instead? I have a lot to tell you. Then she started the engine and drove away from the house where she'd wasted 8 years of her life. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she couldn't stay. Behind her, through the rearview mirror, she saw Trevor and Amber appear in the front window. They were holding champagne glasses, toasting their future. Trevor's arm was wrapped around Amber's waist. Neither of them noticed the small receipt that Simone had taken from her wallet. The receipt from the corner store. The one that showed her debit card number. The one that proved exactly who had purchased that winning lottery ticket. Simone didn't smile. She didn't feel victorious. She only felt empty. But somewhere deep in that emptiness, a tiny flame of anger began to glow. The Starlight Motel sat on the edge of the highway, its neon sign flickering between vacancy and darkness. Simone paid for 3 nights with her debit card, the same card that had purchased the lottery ticket, and took the key to room 117. The room smelled like old cigarettes and cheap air freshener. The bedspread was stained with things Simone didn't want to think about. The television had a crack across the screen. But it was all she could afford without dipping into her emergency savings, and she needed to think clearly. She sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself cry. 8 years. 8 years of working double shifts so Trevor could pursue his dreams. 8 years of believing he was just going through a rough patch. 8 years of making excuses for him to her friends, to her mother, to herself. Her mother. Grace. God, Simone missed her so much it physically hurt. Grace had never liked Trevor. She'd been polite, always polite, but Simone knew. In those final weeks, when cancer had stolen her mother's strength but not her mind, Grace had held Simone's hand and said, "Baby, I'm leaving you some money. Don't tell Trevor. Keep it separate. Just for you." Simone had nodded, even though she knew she'd probably tell Trevor anyway. They were married. They shared everything. Except they hadn't shared everything. Trevor had been sharing himself with Amber for who knew how long. And now he was trying to share Simone's money, Simone's ticket, Simone's miracle. She pulled out her laptop and started searching. First, she Googled her own name and the house address. Just as she feared, the property record showed only Trevor's name. She'd signed it over during what she now realized was probably the height of his affair with Amber. He'd been planning this for years. Next, she logged into her bank account. The account she'd opened when her mother's life insurance paid out. $20,000 had gone in. She'd written herself a note in the memo, "Mom's gift. For emergencies and dreams." She'd spent $50 on groceries, $20 on gas, and $5 on one lottery ticket. $5 that turned into $600 million. Simone pulled up the lottery website. The winning numbers were posted. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, and Powerball 9. She closed her eyes and recited her mother's birthday, July 14th. Her own birthday, March 31st. The day her mother died, April 23rd. The age her mother would have been, 79. Her parents' anniversary, April 2nd. And 9. The day of the month Simone was born. She picked numbers that meant everything to her. Numbers that Trevor knew nothing about because he'd never cared enough to remember the important dates in her life. Her phone buzzed. Nicole calling. "Hello? Simone? Girl, what's wrong? You sounded weird in your text." Simone opened her mouth to explain, but the words got stuck. "How did you tell someone that your entire life had exploded in the span of 20 minutes? Trevor left me," she finally managed. "Well, he kicked me out. With another woman. In our living room." Silence on the other end. "Then, I'm coming to get you." Where are you? The Starlight Motel on Highway 9. That dump? No way. Pack your stuff. You're staying with me. Nicole, I can't just. Yes, you can. I'm leaving now. Don't argue. And Simone? I never liked that man. Not for one single day. Nicole hung up before Simone could protest. Simone looked around the motel room. It was depressing, but there was something clarifying about hitting rock bottom. You could only go up from here. She pulled out the lottery receipt again. It was time-stamped, Tuesday, April 6, 3:47 p.m. She remembered that day perfectly. She'd been at the lawyer's office finalizing her mother's estate. The lawyer had given her a check for the life insurance payout. She'd gone straight to the bank and deposited it into her personal account, the one she'd opened specifically for the inheritance, separate from the joint account she shared with Trevor. Then she'd stopped at Pete's corner store because she was exhausted and sad, and she saw the lottery sign. She remembered Pete himself ringing her up. He'd said something like, "These numbers mean something to you?" And she'd said, "They're my family. The dates that matter." Pete had smiled. "Then maybe they'll bring you luck." She'd laughed it off. But she'd kept the receipt, tucked it into her wallet behind her driver's license. She always kept receipts for a few weeks, a habit her mother had taught her. Her mother had taught her so many things. To be kind. To work hard. To trust people. But maybe Grace had forgotten to teach her the most important lesson, that some people weren't worth trusting. Simone opened her laptop again and started typing. She created a new document and titled it, Evidence. She wrote down everything she could remember. Date and time of lottery ticket purchase. Store location, Pete's Corner Store, 415 Main Street. Payment method, personal debit card, account ending in 4782. Source of funds, mother's life insurance payout, deposited 3 days prior. Witnesses, Pete, the store owner. Ticket selection, all significant family dates, nothing random. Then she started a new section, marriage history. This was harder. Admitting on paper that she'd been blind felt like failing some test she should have aced. She wrote, Trevor unemployed for last 3 years despite business degree. All household expenses paid by Simone's nursing salary. House signed over to Trevor's name 2 years ago under false pretenses. No children, Trevor always said he wasn't ready. Multiple business trips over past 2 years, likely affair with Amber. Joint bank account emptied 6 months ago, Trevor said investment opportunity. The list went on. Each line was another nail in the coffin of her marriage. Another piece of evidence that she'd been used. A knock on the door made her jump. She checked the time, only 20 minutes had passed since Nicole's call. That woman drove like she was training for NASCAR. Simone opened the door to find Nicole holding 2 bags of takeout food and a bottle of wine. I know you said breakfast tomorrow, but you sounded like you needed food and alcohol immediately, Nicole said, pushing past Simone into the room. She looked around and made a face. This place is worse than I thought. Definitely not staying here. Let's eat, then we're going to my place. They sat on the questionable bed and Nicole pulled out containers of Chinese food. Neither of them spoke for a few minutes. They just ate, and Simone was grateful for her friend's ability to know when silence was needed. Finally, Nicole said, So, Trevor's a piece of trash. Tell me everything. Simone did. She told Nicole about coming home to find Trevor and Amber celebrating. About the lottery ticket. About being thrown out of her own house. About the house not even being in her name anymore. What she didn't tell Nicole yet was about the receipt. About the proof she had that the ticket was hers alone. Some instinct told her to keep that information close for now. When she finished, Nicole was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something Simone didn't expect. Do you have a lawyer? A lawyer? A good one. Not your mother's estate lawyer. Someone who specializes in asset disputes. Someone mean. I can't afford. Did Trevor cash in the ticket yet? Simone blinked. She hadn't even thought about that. I don't know. Nicole pulled out her phone and searched. After a few minutes, she looked up with a grim smile. The Lottery Commission website says the ticket hasn't been claimed yet. Winners have 180 days to claim. That gives you time. Time for what? Time to fight. Simone, you worked your whole life. You took care of that man. You paid for everything. You bought that ticket with your mother's money. You really going to let him just take it? Simone thought about Trevor's face when he dismissed her. About Amber's laugh. About 8 years of her life wasted on someone who couldn't even bother to pretend he cared once he didn't need her anymore. No, she said quietly. I'm not going to let him take it. Nicole's smile turned fierce. Good. Because I know someone. Patricia Monroe. She's a lawyer who specializes in cases like this. She's expensive, but she doesn't get paid unless she wins. And girl, she never loses. How do you know her? She helped my cousin fight for her business when her ex-husband tried to claim it in their divorce. Destroyed that man in court. Patricia doesn't play. Simone nodded slowly. A lawyer. Evidence. A fight. She wasn't ready for this. She'd never been a fighter. She was a nurse. She helped people. She made peace. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe she'd been making peace her whole life while other people made war on her kindness. Okay, Simone said. Set up a meeting. Nicole was already dialing. While she talked to someone on the phone, probably Patricia's office, Simone stared at the lottery receipt in her hand. $600 million. Enough money to never work again. Enough money to help people the way her mother had always wanted to help people. Enough money to build a life that meant something. Or enough money to let Trevor and Amber destroy each other while they spent it on expensive cars and private islands and champagne that they spilled on white sofas. No. That money was bought with Grace's life insurance. It was bought with Simone's grief. It was bought with numbers that meant family and love and loss. Trevor didn't get to have it. He'd taken enough. Nicole hung up the phone. Patricia can see you tomorrow morning at 9. Her office is downtown. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You do the same for me. Besides, I want to watch you destroy that man. Nicole poured them both a generous glass of wine. To revenge. The kind that's legal and destroys someone completely. Simone clinked her glass against Nicole's. She took a sip and felt the warmth spread through her chest. Not the warm glow of happiness. Something sharper. Something that felt like purpose. Tomorrow she'd meet with a lawyer. Tomorrow she'd start fighting back. Tonight she'd finish this wine and let herself feel angry. Really truly angry. Not the polite anger that she swallowed down. The kind of anger that burned and demanded justice. He's going to regret this, she said. Nicole smiled. Oh honey. He already does. He just doesn't know it yet. Patricia Monroe's office sat on the 20th floor of a glass tower downtown. The reception area had leather chairs and abstract art that probably cost more than Simone's car. Everything about the space said, I win. Nicole squeezed Simone's hand as they waited. Simone clutched a folder containing every piece of evidence she'd gathered. The lottery receipt, bank statements showing her mother's life insurance deposit, the property deed showing Trevor's sole ownership of the house, and a timeline of their marriage. Ms. Washington? Ms. Monroe will see you now. They followed the receptionist down a hall to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Patricia Monroe stood behind a massive desk, extending her hand. She was a black woman in her 50s, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than Simone's entire wardrobe. Her natural hair was styled in elegant silver locks, and her handshake was firm enough to crack walnuts. Sit, Patricia said. It wasn't a request. Nicole tells me your husband stole your lottery ticket. He says it's community property, Simone began. I didn't ask what he says. I asked what happened. Patricia's dark eyes were sharp. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out even if you think it makes you look bad. So Simone told her. All of it. From the beginning of her marriage to the moment she drove away from her house. She showed Patricia the receipt, the bank statements, everything. When she finished, Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Do you know why most people lose cases like this? Simone shook her head. Because they let their feelings get in the way. They want to punish their spouse. They want revenge. They make stupid decisions based on anger. Patricia leaned forward. Are you going to do that? No, Simone said. I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do. Patricia's stern expression cracked into a small smile. Good answer. Here's the situation. In California, property acquired during marriage is generally community property. But there are exceptions. Separate property, like inheritance or gifts, remains separate if you keep it separate. You bought that ticket with your mother's life insurance money, which you deposited into a separate account. That's your separate property. So the ticket is mine? Potentially. But we need to prove it. And we need to move fast. Patricia pulled up something on her computer. The Lottery Commission website shows the ticket hasn't been claimed yet. Your husband is probably being smart, waiting for media attention to die down before he claims it. Big winners usually wait a few weeks or months. But the moment he files a claim, the clock starts ticking. What do? We file an injunction immediately to prevent him from claiming the prize until the courts determine ownership. We'll argue that the ticket was purchased with your separate property and therefore belongs to you alone. We'll also file for divorce and request a full accounting of all marital assets. Simone's head spun. This is really happening. This is really happening, Patricia confirmed. But I need you to understand something. This is going to get ugly. Your husband will hire lawyers. They'll dig into your life. They'll try to make you look bad. They'll claim you're lying or that you gave him permission to take the ticket or that the money wasn't really separate property. Can you handle that? Simone thought about Trevor's face when he told her she smelled like hospital disinfectant. About Amber's laugh. About 8 years of being treated like she didn't matter. I can handle it. Good. My fee is 40% of whatever we win. Given the amount involved, we're talking about a substantial sum. If we lose, you pay nothing. But I don't lose. Patricia stood. I'm going to need you to sign some paperwork. Then I'm going to send an investigator to that corner store to get security footage of you buying the ticket. We're also going to need a statement from the store owner. And I want your phone records, emails, everything. I need to build an airtight case that this ticket belongs to you and you alone. Over the next 2 hours, Simone signed document after document. Authorization for Patricia to act on her behalf. Filing for divorce. Request for injunction. Asset disclosure forms. When they finally finished, Patricia walked them to the door. One more thing. Don't contact your husband. Don't text him. Don't call him. Don't drive by the house. Any contact can be used against you. Let me handle everything. What if he tries to contact me? Forward everything to me immediately. Don't respond. Patricia's expression softened slightly. I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. Your mother left you that money for a reason. She wanted you to be protected. We're going to make sure her wishes are honored. Simone felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. Thank me when we win. In the elevator, Nicole let out a long breath. That woman is terrifying. That's why we hired her. True. Nicole checked her phone. I have to head to work. But you're staying with me until this is sorted out, okay? No arguments. Okay. They stepped out onto the street. The morning sun was bright and people rushed past on their way to offices and meetings. Normal people living normal lives. Simone wondered if she'd ever feel normal again. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You made a big mistake. Trevor. She showed it to Nicole. Forward it to Patricia, Nicole said immediately. He's already breaking the rules. Simone forwarded the message and within seconds Patricia replied, Noted. Do not respond. This helps our case. Over the next week things moved fast. Patricia's investigator visited Pete's corner store and confirmed that security footage showed Simone purchasing the ticket alone on the date and time listed on the receipt. Pete remembered her and gave a statement saying she told him the numbers were family dates. Bank records confirmed the life insurance deposit 3 days before the ticket purchase. Everything supported Simone's claim. Patricia filed the injunction and suddenly the case became public. The local news picked it up first. Legal battle over $600 million lottery ticket. Then the story went viral. Husband kicks out wife, steals her winning lottery ticket. Simone's phone exploded with messages. Old friends from nursing school. Colleagues from the hospital. People she hadn't talked to in years. Everyone wanted to know if the story was true. She ignored most of them. But she did respond to one message from a nurse she'd worked with for years. It's true. He threw me out. But I'm fighting back. The response was immediate. Good. That man was always a user. We all knew it. Why hadn't anyone told her? Simone wondered. But she knew the answer. She wouldn't have listened. She'd been too busy defending Trevor, making excuses for him, believing he'd change. 3 days after filing the injunction, Patricia called. We have a court date. 2 weeks from today. The judge will decide on the injunction and set a schedule for the trial. And Simone? The media is going to be there. Are you ready for that? I have to be. Wear something professional but not expensive. We want you to look sympathetic. The nurse who worked hard while her husband stole from her. That's the narrative. That is what happened. I know. But in court, everything is about perception. Your husband's lawyers will try to paint you as vindictive and money-hungry. We need to show that you're the victim here. Because you are. The next 2 weeks crawled by. Simone went to work, stayed at Nicole's apartment, and avoided all media. But she couldn't avoid the whispers at the hospital. Everyone knew. Some people were supportive. Others looked at her with pity. A few seemed to think she was making a big deal out of nothing. One of the older doctors cornered her in the break room. Don't you think you're being a bit harsh? He's still your husband. Simone looked at him steadily. He threw me out of my house for another woman and stole $600 million from me? How harsh should I be? The doctor had no answer for that. The night before the court date, Nicole helped Simone pick out an outfit. Simple black pants and a blue blouse. Her nursing badge clipped to her belt. Hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. No jewelry except her mother's simple gold cross necklace. You look perfect, Nicole said. Professional. Trustworthy. Not at all like someone who'd lie about a lottery ticket. I'm not lying. I know. But Trevor's going to say you are. He's going to say you're trying to steal from him. So we need to make sure everyone can see the truth just by looking at you. That night, Simone couldn't sleep. She lay in Nicole's guest room and thought about her mother. Grace would have loved this fight. She'd always told Simone to stand up for herself. You're too soft, baby, she'd say. The world will walk all over you if you let it. Simone hadn't let Trevor walk all over her. She'd rolled out a red carpet and asked him which direction he wanted to go. Never again. At 8 the next morning, Simone met Patricia outside the courthouse. There were news vans everywhere. Cameras. Reporters shouting questions. Keep your head down and stay close, Patricia instructed. Don't say anything. They pushed through the crowd. Simone caught glimpses of headlines on reporters' notebooks. Lottery ticket scandal. Husband versus wife battle. Who owns the jackpot? Inside the courthouse was quieter. They went through security and headed to the assigned courtroom. Patricia led her to a table on the left side. The room was wood-paneled and formal, with rows of benches for observers. Most of them were already filled. Then Trevor walked in. He'd lost weight. His suit was expensive, probably bought on credit in anticipation of his big win. Amber walked beside him, wearing a tight dress and too much perfume. Simone could smell it from across the room. Trevor's eyes met Simone's, and for a second, something like fear crossed his face. Then it was gone, replaced by a smirk. His lawyer was a man in his 60s with silver hair and a voice like gravel. He leaned over and whispered something to Trevor, who nodded. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Helen Crawford entered. She was a black woman in her 60s with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen everything and wasn't impressed by any of it. Be seated, she said. I've reviewed the filings in this case. Before we proceed, I want to make something clear. This is not about $600 million. This is about ownership and property law. I will not tolerate grandstanding or media games in my courtroom. Is that understood? Both lawyers agreed. Good. Let's begin. The courtroom felt like it was holding its breath as Trevor's lawyer stood. His name was Gerald Hendricks, and according to Patricia's research, he specialized in defending wealthy men in messy divorces. Your Honor, Hendricks began, his voice smooth and practiced, this case is quite simple. During their marriage, my client and Mrs. Washington shared everything. Finances, property, decisions. The lottery ticket in question was purchased during this marriage, making it community property under California law. Mrs. Washington is attempting to claim sole ownership after the fact, likely motivated by the recent deterioration of their relationship. We ask that the injunction be dismissed and that my client be allowed to claim his rightful prize. Patricia rose, and suddenly the energy in the room shifted. Your Honor, nothing about this case is simple. Mrs. Washington purchased that lottery ticket with money from her deceased mother's life insurance policy, separate property that she deliberately kept separate from marital assets. She has a receipt showing the exact date, time, and payment method. She has bank records proving the source of funds. She has security footage showing her purchasing the ticket alone. And she has witness testimony from the store owner. Mr. Washington, meanwhile, has nothing but his name on a marriage certificate and the fact that he physically took the ticket from his wife's purse. He stole it. Judge Crawford's eyebrows rose. In the most technical sense, yes. Hendricks jumped up. Objection. That's inflammatory language. Married couples share property. Taking something that belongs to both parties isn't theft. Then let's talk about what else Mr. Washington took, Patricia said coolly. 2 years ago, he convinced Mrs. Washington to sign over their house, which she paid for with her nursing salary, to his name only. He claimed it was temporary for credit purposes. Then, 6 months ago, he emptied their joint bank account, claiming he needed it for a business investment. That money has never been recovered or explained. And finally, when the lottery ticket won, he threw Mrs. Washington out of the house and moved in his mistress. This is a pattern of financial abuse and manipulation, not a couple sharing property. Judge Crawford looked at Trevor, who had gone pale. Amber, sitting behind him, had her arms crossed defensively. Mr. Hendricks, does your client dispute any of these facts? Hendricks whispered to Trevor for a moment. Your Honor, the house transfer and the joint account withdrawal are irrelevant to the current case. We're here about the lottery ticket, nothing else. Actually, Judge Crawford said, I decide what's relevant. And Mrs. Monroe makes a compelling point about patterns of behavior. Let's see this evidence. For the next hour, Patricia presented everything. She had Pete, the store owner, testify via video call. He confirmed that Simone had come in alone, seemed sad, and told him the numbers were family dates. He remembered because she'd been close to tears when she explained that her mother had just died. She said her mom always played the lottery, Pete testified. Said maybe it would bring her some luck. I told her I hoped it would. Never thought it actually would. Patricia showed the security footage from the store. There was Simone wearing scrubs, looking exhausted and heartbroken. She handed over her debit card, took the ticket, and left. No Trevor anywhere in sight. The bank records were even more damning. Patricia had traced every dollar from the life insurance payment to Simone's separate account. Not one penny had gone into the joint account. The timeline was crystal clear. Insurance money in, lottery ticket out, 3 days apart. Hendricks tried to argue that the source of funds didn't matter, that anything purchased during a marriage was community property regardless of which specific dollars were used. Patricia destroyed that argument. Your Honor, California law is explicit. Separate property remains separate if kept separate. Mrs. Washington opened a specific account for her inheritance. She used that account and only that account to purchase the ticket. There is no commingling of funds. Mr. Washington had no knowledge of the ticket purchase. He didn't even know his wife bought lottery tickets until after this one. The only reason he's claiming it now is because he physically took it from her possession without her knowledge or consent. When did he take it? Judge Crawford asked. Mrs. Washington kept the ticket in her purse, Patricia explained. She checked the numbers the morning of the day in question and realized she'd won. She was planning to verify the win and consult with an attorney about how to protect the money. But when she came home that afternoon, she found Mr. Washington celebrating with his mistress. He had already taken the ticket from her purse. Based on the timeline, he must have searched her belongings while she was at work. Judge Crawford turned to Hendricks. So your client went through his wife's purse and took the ticket? My client found a lottery ticket in their shared home and checked to see if it was a winner, Hendricks said carefully. When he discovered it had won, he naturally assumed it was marital property. Did he ask his wife about it? Silence. Mr. Hendricks? Your Honor, their marriage was already troubled. My client was planning to file for divorce. The timing was unfortunate. The timing was criminal, Patricia shot back. Mrs. Washington bought the ticket on April 6th. The drawing was April 9th. Mr. Washington checked the numbers on April 10th and immediately took possession of the ticket. That same day he threw his wife out of the house she paid for, and moved in his mistress. This wasn't a misunderstanding about marital property. This was a calculated theft. Judge Crawford was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm going to take a short recess. When I return, I'll rule on the injunction. Both counsel, be prepared to discuss the timeline for the main trial. Everyone stood as the judge left. Simone felt like she couldn't breathe. Patricia put a hand on her shoulder. You did great. Just sit tight. Across the aisle, Trevor was having an intense conversation with Hendricks. Even from a distance, Simone could see the panic in Trevor's eyes. Amber had left the courtroom, probably to avoid more media attention. Nicole, who'd been sitting in the gallery, came forward. That judge hates him. Did you see her face when Patricia talked about him going through your purse? We haven't won yet, Simone cautioned. But we will, Patricia said confidently. Everything is on our side. The evidence, the law, and most importantly, the truth. 20 minutes later, Judge Crawford returned. Everyone rose. I've reviewed the evidence presented today, the judge began, and I'm going to grant the injunction. Mr. Washington is hereby prohibited from claiming the lottery prize until this court determines ownership. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full investigation into the purchase of the ticket, the source of funds, and the circumstances under which Mr. Washington came into possession of it. Trevor jumped up. Your Honor, I need that money. I have expenses, obligations. Sit down, Mr. Washington, Judge Crawford said sharply. You should have thought about your expenses before you threw your wife out on the street. As for obligations, your first obligation is to follow the law. And right now the law says you don't touch that ticket. Hendricks tried to intervene. Your Honor, my client's financial situation is precarious. He's facing significant hardship without access to the funds. Then perhaps he should get a job, the judge said dryly. Mrs. Washington managed to support both of them on a nurse's salary for years. I'm sure Mr. Washington can figure something out. The injunction stands. We'll reconvene in 3 months for the full trial. In the meantime, I'm ordering both parties to complete financial disclosures. I want to see every bank account, every credit card, every asset. I want to know where that joint account money went. And I want to know exactly how Mr. Washington has been supporting himself and his companion. Do I make myself clear? Both lawyers nodded. Good. We're adjourned. The moment the judge left, the courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed toward both sides. Patricia grabbed Simone's arm and hustled her toward a side exit. Don't say anything, Patricia reminded her. Not one word. But Simone couldn't help glancing back at Trevor. He was standing at his table looking lost. Amber had reappeared and was clinging to his arm, but Trevor barely seemed to notice her. He was staring at Simone with an expression she'd never seen before. Fear. He was afraid of her. Afraid of what she could do. Afraid that he'd finally underestimated the wrong person. Good, Simone thought. Let him be afraid. Outside, Patricia's car was waiting at a private exit. They climbed in quickly, leaving the media circus behind. That went as well as it could have, Patricia said. The judge is on our side. The injunction buys us time to build an even stronger case. And the financial disclosure order means Trevor has to explain where all the money went. If he can't, it makes him look even worse. What happens now? Simone asked. Now we dig. I'm hiring a forensic accountant to trace every dollar Trevor has spent in the last 5 years. I'm hiring a private investigator to document his affair with Amber. When it started, how long it's been going on, everything. And I'm going to depose every person who knows about your marriage. Friends, family, co-workers. Anyone who can testify about how you supported Trevor, how he manipulated you, and how he's been planning this for a long time. How long will that take? 2, maybe 3 months. Which is perfect because that's when the trial is scheduled. Patricia looked at Simone seriously. The judge gave us a gift today. She could have dismissed the injunction and let Trevor claim the money while the trial proceeded. Instead, she froze everything. That tells me she thinks we have a strong case. But we can't get cocky. Trevor's going to fight hard. He has every motivation to lie, cheat, and manipulate his way to that money. Our job is to make sure the truth comes out. Simone nodded. She felt exhausted but also strangely energized. For the first time in 8 years, she was fighting for herself instead of making peace. Her phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. I'll make sure you get nothing. She showed it to Patricia, who smiled grimly. Forward it to me. And Simone? Every time he threatens you, he builds our case. Keep them all. Over the next few weeks, Patricia's team went to work. The forensic accountant discovered that Trevor had spent the missing joint account money on gifts for Amber. Jewelry, clothes, a car. None of it could be recovered because Trevor had been stupid enough to put everything in Amber's name. The private investigator found evidence that Trevor and Amber's affair had started 3 years ago, not 2. Witnesses from restaurants and hotels confirmed they'd been together long before Trevor claimed. Some of the charges had been on credit cards that Simone had paid off, thinking Trevor was using them for business expenses. Every new piece of information made Simone angrier. But it also made her more determined. Patricia's team also interviewed Simone's friends, co-workers, and family. The picture they painted was devastating. Simone had worked herself to exhaustion supporting Trevor. She'd defended him to everyone. She'd isolated herself from people who tried to warn her. She'd made herself smaller and smaller to accommodate his ego. And through it all, Trevor had been cheating on her, stealing from her, and planning to leave her the moment something better came along. The something better had turned out to be $600 million bought with a dead woman's life insurance money. When Patricia presented the full investigation report 3 weeks before the trial, Simone sat in her office and read through 200 pages of evidence. This is worse than I thought, she said quietly. I know, Patricia replied. But worse for Trevor means better for us. Every piece of this shows a pattern of abuse, manipulation, and theft. The judge is going to see a man who used his wife for years and then tried to steal her inheritance. There's no way Trevor wins this case. The only question is how badly we destroy him. Simone looked up. I don't want to destroy him. I just want what's mine. Patricia's expression softened slightly. I know. And that's why you're going to win. Because you're not doing this out of spite. You're doing it because it's right. The judge will see that. The jury will see that, if it even gets to a jury. I think Trevor's lawyers will advise him to settle once they see this evidence. Will he listen? Depends on how much Amber is pushing him to fight. From what the investigator found, she's already spending money they don't have. If Trevor loses, she loses. She has every motivation to make him fight this to the end. Then we'll fight to the end, Simone said. Patricia smiled. That's what I like to hear. Now let's talk strategy for the trial. The story exploded online 3 days before the trial was set to begin. Patricia suspected Trevor's team trying to build public sympathy, leaked details to a major news network. But their plan backfired spectacularly. The headline read, "Nurse works 60-hour weeks while husband cheats, then he steals her $600 million lottery ticket." The article included everything: how Simone had supported Trevor through years of unemployment, how she'd bought the ticket with her dead mother's insurance money, how Trevor had thrown her out for his mistress the same day he discovered the win. The story painted Trevor as a villain and Simone as a victim. By the next morning, the hashtag Justice for Simone was trending on social media. Thousands of people shared their own stories of financial abuse, of supporting partners who gave nothing back, of being used and discarded. Simone woke up to find her phone exploding with notifications. She was tagged in hundreds of posts. A GoFundMe someone had started for her legal fees, even though Patricia was working on contingency, had raised $50,000 overnight. People wanted to help. Turn off your phone, Nicole advised when Simone showed her the chaos. This is good for the case, but it's not good for your mental health. Let Patricia handle the media. But Simone couldn't look away. She read story after story from women who'd experienced the same thing. Husbands who'd stolen from them. Partners who'd isolated them from friends and family. Men who'd taken credit for their work, their money, their lives. One comment stuck with her. My ex did the same thing. Took everything I'd worked for and left me with nothing. But I rebuilt. You will too. And when you win that money, use it to help other women escape. That's the real revenge. Simone screenshot the comment and sent it to Patricia. What if I did that? Used the money to help other women? Patricia's response came immediately. Hold that thought until after we win. But yes, that would be powerful. Both in court and in life. The media attention intensified as the trial date approached. News vans camped outside Patricia's office. Reporters tried to interview Simone at the hospital, but her supervisor shut that down quickly, threatening to call security if they didn't leave the premises. Trevor, meanwhile, was having a worse time with the publicity. Someone found his social media accounts and discovered posts where he'd complained about Simone nagging him to get a job. Other posts showed him at expensive restaurants and bars, all while Simone was working double shifts to pay their bills. The investigator Patricia hired found even more. Credit card statements showing Trevor had taken Amber on a vacation to Hawaii 6 months before he left Simone. The trip had cost $15,000 from the joint account that Simone had assumed was for Trevor's investment opportunity. When that information went public, the backlash was swift and brutal. People called Trevor every name imaginable. They tracked down Amber's social media and flooded her accounts with angry messages. Her Instagram, which had been filled with pictures of designer purses and expensive dinners, went private immediately. Simone felt no satisfaction from watching them suffer online. If anything, she felt hollow. This was her life being dissected by strangers. Her pain turned into entertainment. But Patricia was thrilled with the public response. The judge will see this. And even though she can't let it influence her ruling, officially, it shows that reasonable people think you're in the right. That matters. The night before the trial, Simone couldn't eat. She sat in Nicole's living room, staring at the television without really watching it. Her mother's gold cross felt heavy around her neck. You thinking about your mom? Nicole asked, sitting down beside her. She would have loved this, Simone said softly. Not the pain or the betrayal, but the fighting back part. She always told me I was too forgiving. You were trusting. That's different. Trusting and stupid. No, trusting and kind. The world needs more people like you, not fewer. Trevor's the problem, not you. Simone turned to her friend. What if we lose? What if the judge decides it's community property and I have to split the money with him? Nicole grabbed her hand. Then you still have $300 million and you never have to see that man again. But you're not going to lose. Patricia doesn't lose. And more importantly, you're right. The ticket is yours. The law will prove that. Simone wanted to believe her. But she believed Trevor when he said he loved her. She believed him when he said the house transfer was temporary. She believed him every time he promised to change. Her ability to trust her own judgment was shattered. "I don't know what's real anymore," she admitted. "Then trust me," Nicole said firmly. "Trust Patricia. Trust the evidence. Trust that sometimes the world actually gives justice to people who deserve it. Your mom wanted you to have that money. She wanted you to be taken care of. And tomorrow we're going to make sure her wishes are honored." The next morning, Simone put on the same professional outfit she'd worn to the injunction hearing. No jewelry except her mother's cross. Hair pulled back. Minimal makeup. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She'd lost weight from stress. Her eyes had dark circles underneath. But there was something else there too. Something harder than before. Determination. The courthouse was surrounded by media. More than last time. Someone had set up a small crowd of supporters holding signs, "Justice for Simone," and "Nurses Matter," and "He's a Thief." Simone didn't know these people. They'd come because her story had resonated with them. Patricia led her through the crowd quickly. Inside they went through the same routine. Security check. Walk to the courtroom. Sit at the same table. Trevor walked in 5 minutes later. He looked terrible. His expensive suit didn't quite fit anymore. He'd lost even more weight. Amber wasn't with him this time. According to the investigator, they'd been fighting. Amber apparently thought Trevor should just settle and give Simone some money so they could move on with their lives. But Trevor's pride wouldn't let him. He wanted to win. Wanted to prove that he deserved the money. Judge Crawford entered and the trial officially began. For the first 2 hours, it was mostly procedural. Opening statements. Introduction of evidence. Technical legal arguments about property law and separate assets. But then Patricia called her first witness, Simone. Walking to the witness stand felt surreal. Simone swore to tell the truth and sat down, very aware of every eye in the courtroom on her. Patricia started gently. "Mrs. Washington, can you tell the court about your mother?" "Objection," Hendricks said. "Relevance." "Your Honor, the source of funds that purchased the lottery ticket came from Mrs. Washington's mother. Her mother's life, her death, and her final wishes are directly relevant to this case." Overruled. "Answer the question, Mrs. Washington." Simone took a breath. "My mother's name was Grace. She was a teacher for 35 years. She raised me alone after my father died when I was 5. She taught me to work hard, to be kind, and to always help people who needed it. She got sick 2 years ago. Cancer. She fought for 18 months before she passed away last March. What did your mother leave you?" "She had a life insurance policy through her teachers' union. $20,000. She told me before she died that it was for me to use however I needed. For emergencies or dreams, she said. She made me promise to keep it separate from everything else. She said I should have something that was just mine." Patricia nodded. "And did you keep it separate?" "Yes. I opened a new bank account just for that money. I didn't tell Trevor about it because Mom asked me not to. She said it was important that I had something he couldn't touch." "Did your mother explain why she felt that way?" Simone's voice got quieter. "She never liked Trevor. She never said it directly, but I knew. In her last weeks, she told me she was worried about me. She said I gave too much and didn't ask for enough in return. She wanted me to have a safety net. Something that was mine." Tears were running down Simone's face now, but she didn't wipe them away. This was the truth. This was her life. "Tell us about the day you bought the lottery ticket." "It was April 6th. 3 days after the insurance money came through. I'd been at the lawyer's office finalizing Mom's estate. I was exhausted and sad and I stopped at Pete's corner store on the way home. I saw the lottery sign and I remembered how Mom used to play every week. So I bought one ticket. Just one. I picked numbers that meant something to me, family birthdays and the date Mom died. I paid with my debit card from the account with Mom's money. And then I went home." "Did you tell your husband about the ticket?" "No. I put it in my purse and forgot about it. I didn't check the numbers until 5 days later, the morning of April 10th. When I realized I'd won, I couldn't believe it. I planned to talk to a lawyer that day to figure out how to handle it. But when I got home that afternoon..." Simone's voice broke. "Take your time," Patricia said gently. Simone breathed deep. "When I got home, Trevor was celebrating with another woman. They were drinking champagne and laughing. He had my lottery ticket in his hand. He told me they'd won. He said we won. Then he told me to pack my bags and leave. He said I smelled like hospital disinfectant and he didn't need me anymore. He had Amber and she was beautiful and they were going to be rich together." The courtroom was completely silent. "He threw me out of my own house. The house I'd paid for with my salary while he stayed home and did nothing. He took the ticket I bought with my mother's life insurance money. And he told me I was worthless. Patricia let that sit for a moment. Then she asked, "During your 8 years of marriage, did you support Mr. Washington financially?" "Yes. I worked as a nurse. Sometimes 60 or 70 hours a week. I paid for everything, the mortgage, food, utilities, his car payment, his phone bill, everything." Trevor said he was building a business, but nothing ever came of it. Did he contribute financially at all? No. Did he help with household tasks? Sometimes. But mostly I did everything. Cooking, cleaning, shopping. I worked all day and then came home and took care of him. Patricia showed the bank records to the court. 8 years of deposits from Simone's nursing salary. 8 years of zero deposits from Trevor. 8 years of one person carrying everything while the other person took and took and took. When Hendricks cross-examined Simone, he tried to make her look vindictive. "Mrs. Washington, isn't it true that you're angry at my client for ending your marriage?" "I'm angry that he stole from me. But the ticket was purchased during your marriage. In California, that makes it community property. The ticket was purchased with my mother's life insurance money. Money she specifically wanted me to keep separate. Money I kept in a separate account. Money Trevor never contributed to and never even knew about. You expect this court to believe that you never told your husband about $20,000? My mother asked me not to. She wanted me protected. Or perhaps you were hiding assets in preparation for divorce? I wasn't planning to divorce Trevor. I loved him. I supported him for 8 years. I believed in him even when no one else did." Simone looked directly at Trevor. "I was loyal to you. And you betrayed me in every way possible." Trevor looked away. Hendricks tried several more tactics, but Simone didn't budge. She told the truth calmly and clearly. By the time she stepped down from the witness stand, even Hendricks looked defeated. Patricia called several more witnesses that day. Pete from the corner store, who confirmed Simone bought the ticket alone. The bank manager, who verified the separate account and the source of funds. Nicole, who testified about how Simone had supported Trevor and made excuses for him for years. By the end of the day, the evidence was overwhelming. The ticket was Simone's. The money was Simone's. Trevor had stolen both. As court adjourned, Simone caught Trevor's eye one more time. He looked broken. And for just a second she almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The trial reconvened the next morning, and Trevor's desperation was palpable. Hendricks called him to the stand, and Simone watched as her soon-to-be ex-husband swore to tell the truth. "Mr. Washington," Hendricks began, "please tell the court about your marriage to Simone." Trevor cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable in his expensive suit, like a child playing dress-up. "We met 10 years ago. We fell in love. We got married 2 years later. I thought we were happy. Did you know about your wife's separate bank account?" "No. She hid it from me." "Objection," Patricia said calmly. "Assumes facts not in evidence. There's no evidence Mrs. Washington hid anything. She maintained a separate account for her inheritance, as was her legal right." "Sustained," Judge Crawford said. "Mr. Hendricks, rephrase. Were you aware of your wife's separate bank account containing her mother's life insurance money?" "No." "When did you first learn about the lottery ticket?" Trevor shifted in his seat. "I found it in Simone's purse on April 10th. I checked the numbers online and realized it had won. I was excited. I thought we'd won together." "Did you know your wife had purchased the ticket?" "I assumed it was ours. We shared everything." Patricia's turn to cross-examine was brutal. She stood and walked toward the witness stand slowly, holding a folder. "Mr. Washington, you testified that you and your wife shared everything. Is that correct?" "Yes." "Did you share the financial burden of your household?" Trevor hesitated. "Simone made more money than me. She was a nurse." "That's not what I asked. Did you contribute financially to your household at any point during your 8-year marriage?" "I was building a business." "Yes or no, Mr. Washington? Did you contribute any income to your household?" "No." "So when you say you shared everything, what you mean is Simone shared her money with you while you contributed nothing." "Objection," Hendricks said. Argumentative. Sustained. "Move on, Ms. Monroe." Patricia smiled slightly. "Mr. Washington, when did your relationship with Amber begin?" Trevor's face went red. "I don't know what you mean." "You're under oath. When did your affair with Amber start?" "We didn't have an affair. Simone and I were already having problems." "When did your relationship with Amber begin?" Patricia repeated, her voice sharp. "About 6 months before I asked Simone to leave." Patricia showed the court a series of credit card statements. These records show charges to hotels and restaurants where you were seen with Amber. The earliest charge is from 3 years ago. So I'll ask again, when did your affair begin? Trevor's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The evidence was clear. You took Amber to Hawaii 6 months before you left your wife, correct? Yes. Who paid for that trip? The joint account. The joint account that your wife's salary funded while you contributed nothing? Yes. And the $15,000 for that trip, did you tell your wife you were using it to take your mistress on vacation? No. I told her it was for a business investment. So you lied. I didn't want to hurt her. Patricia's laugh was cold. You didn't want to hurt her, so you stole $15,000 to vacation with your mistress. Then, when a lottery ticket your wife bought with her dead mother's money won $600 million, you threw her out of the house and moved in that same mistress. But you didn't want to hurt her. It wasn't like that. Then explain to this court exactly what it was like. Trevor couldn't. He stammered and contradicted himself. He claimed he loved Simone but admitted he'd been planning to leave her for months. He said the ticket was community property but couldn't explain why he'd taken it from Simone's purse without asking. He insisted he hadn't meant to hurt anyone but acknowledged throwing Simone out on the same day he discovered the win. By the time Patricia was done with him, Trevor looked like he wanted to disappear. But Hendricks wasn't finished. That afternoon he called Amber to the stand. Amber had dressed more conservatively than usual, a beige dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. She was trying to look respectable but it wasn't working. Every time she spoke she sounded defensive and mean. Ms. Reynolds, Hendricks asked, how did you meet Mr. Washington? At a business conference 3 years ago. And when did your relationship become romantic? We started dating about 6 months before Trevor left his wife. Patricia made a note. Amber had just contradicted Trevor's timeline. Good. Hendricks walked Amber through a carefully crafted story about how she and Trevor had fallen in love, how his marriage was already over, how Simone had been cold and distant. It was all lies, but Amber told them convincingly. Then Patricia stood for cross-examination. Ms. Reynolds, you testified that you began dating Mr. Washington 6 months before he left his wife. But we have evidence, credit card records, witness statements, hotel receipts, showing you and Mr. Washington together as early as 3 years ago. Which timeline is correct? Amber's eyes widened. I meant we started getting serious 6 months before. We were friends before that. Friends who went to hotels together? We weren't sleeping together at first. But you were spending my client's money. Money she earned while working 60-hour weeks as a nurse. Money she thought was being used for legitimate business purposes. You knew Mr. Washington was married, correct? Yes, but... And you knew he was using his wife's money to fund your relationship? Trevor said the marriage was over. Did he tell you that before or after he stopped contributing financially to his household? Before or after he convinced his wife to sign over their house to his name only? Before or after he started planning to steal her lottery winnings? Objection. Hendricks was on his feet. Ms. Monroe is testifying rather than questioning. Withdrawn, Patricia said smoothly. Ms. Reynolds, did you know about the lottery ticket before Mr. Washington told his wife to leave? Amber hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. Trevor checked the numbers while I was there. So you were present when he discovered the ticket had won? Yes. And what was your reaction? I was happy for him. For us. Did you ask where the ticket came from? No. I assumed it was his. Did you know Mrs. Washington had bought it with her dead mother's life insurance money? No. When did you learn that fact? When all this court stuff started. And when you learned that the ticket had been purchased with Mrs. Washington's inheritance, money from her deceased mother, did you suggest to Mr. Washington that perhaps he should return it? Amber's face hardened. It was during their marriage. That makes it community property. I see. So your position is that it's acceptable to take something that doesn't belong to you as long as you can find a legal technicality to justify it. Objection. Sustained. Ms. Monroe, save the editorial comments for closing arguments. But again the damage was done. The jury, because Trevor had insisted on a jury trial, was looking at Amber with disgust. She came across as exactly what she was. A woman who'd knowingly participated in destroying a marriage and stealing money. Court adjourned for the day and Simone left feeling cautiously optimistic. Patricia had eviscerated both Trevor and Amber. The evidence was overwhelming. The only question now was whether the jury would follow the law or let emotions cloud their judgment. That night, Simone got a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. I'll give you 50 million to drop the case. We can both walk away. Trevor. She immediately forwarded it to Patricia, whose response was immediate. Don't respond. He's trying to settle because he knows he's losing. Let him panic. But $50 million. That was more money than Simone could spend in multiple lifetimes. She could help so many people. She could fund her mother's dream of a scholarship program for underprivileged kids. She could retire from nursing and volunteer full-time. Or she could fight for all 600 million and make sure Trevor got nothing. Patricia called her. I know what you're thinking. 50 million is a lot of money. But Simone, you bought that ticket. You earned this. If you settle now, Trevor gets $550 million for doing absolutely nothing except stealing from you. Is that justice? No. Then we fight. We see this through to the end. And we make sure Trevor learns that there are consequences for treating people like they're disposable. Simone thought about her mother. About Grace working 35 years as a teacher, helping kids who had nothing, giving everything she had to make the world better. About Grace leaving Simone $20,000 and begging her to keep it separate, to protect herself. Grace hadn't left Simone that money so Trevor could steal it and buy penthouses and sports cars. We fight, Simone said firmly. Good. Because tomorrow, we show the jury exactly who Trevor Washington really is. The next morning, Patricia called the forensic accountant to the stand. For 2 hours he walked the jury through Trevor's finances. Every dollar he'd spent from the joint account. Every charge on credit cards that Simone had paid off. Every lie about business investments and opportunities. The total was staggering. Over $150,000 spent on Amber, on himself, on maintaining the appearance of success while Simone worked herself to exhaustion. And where is that money now? Patricia asked. Gone. Spent on jewelry, clothes, vacations, expensive dinners. Nothing remains except the items Mr. Washington purchased for Ms. Reynolds, which are in her possession. Then Patricia called Simone's co-workers from the hospital. One by one they testified about how Simone had worked constant overtime. How she'd skipped lunch breaks to pick up extra shifts. How she talked about helping Trevor succeed, about believing in his potential. She was so loyal to him, one nurse testified. Even when we all saw he was using her. She'd get upset if anyone criticized him. She really loved that man. By the afternoon, when Patricia rested her case, the picture was complete. Simone was a devoted wife who'd worked herself to the bone for a husband who gave nothing in return. A husband who'd stolen from her, cheated on her, and tried to take the one piece of financial security she had left from her dead mother. Hendricks tried to repair the damage in his closing argument. He talked about marriage being a partnership, about community property laws, about how Trevor had a right to share in the lottery winnings. But Patricia's closing argument was devastating. Members of the jury, this case is simple. California law says that separate property remains separate. Grace Washington left her daughter $20,000. Simone kept that money separate as her mother wished. She used that money to buy one lottery ticket. That ticket won. The ticket and the winnings belonged to Simone. Not to the man who stole it from her purse. Not to the man who threw her out of her own house. Not to the man who spent 8 years taking everything she had and giving nothing in return. Trevor Washington doesn't deserve one penny of that $600 million. And I trust you'll make sure he doesn't get it. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. We find that the lottery ticket in question was purchased with Mrs. Washington's separate property and therefore belongs entirely to her. We find that Mr. Washington has no claim to the winnings. Simone felt her knees go weak. Patricia grabbed her arm, steadying her. Judge Crawford nodded. Thank you, jury. The court accepts your verdict. The injunction preventing Mr. Washington from claiming the lottery prize is now permanent. Mrs. Washington is the sole owner of the winning ticket and may claim the prize at her discretion. Furthermore, Mr. Washington is ordered to pay all of Mrs. Washington's legal fees. We're adjourned. The courtroom erupted. Supporters cheered. Reporters rushed for the exits to file their stories. Nicole was crying. Simone just stood there trying to process what had happened. She'd won. After everything, she'd won. Across the room, Trevor was slumped in his chair. Amber was nowhere to be seen. She'd apparently left before the verdict was read. Trevor's lawyer was packing his briefcase, already distancing himself from his client. Trevor looked up and met Simone's eyes. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Trevor stood and walked toward her. Simone, he started. Don't, she said quietly. We have nothing to say to each other. I'm sorry. I messed up. I know that now. You didn't mess up, Trevor. You made choices. You chose to use me. You chose to cheat on me. You chose to steal from me. Those weren't mistakes. Those were decisions. I loved you. Simone looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just emptiness where he used to be. No, she said. You never did. And that's okay. Because I don't love you anymore either. She turned and walked away with Patricia and Nicole. Behind her, she could hear Trevor calling her name, but she didn't look back. The paperwork to officially claim the lottery prize took 3 days. Simone sat in the lottery commission's office with Patricia, signing document after document. The publicity had been intense, and the commission had assigned extra security to handle the media presence. You can choose to remain anonymous, the lottery representative explained. Many winners do. It protects you from people asking for money. Simone considered it. But then she thought about all the women who'd shared their stories online. The women who'd been abused, manipulated, used. Women who needed to know they could fight back and win. No, she said. I want people to know. I want other women to see that you don't have to let someone steal from you. That you can stand up for yourself. The representative nodded and processed the paperwork. You have 2 options for payment. A lump sum of $320 million after taxes, or annual payments of $30 million for 20 years. Most winners take the lump sum. Lump sum, Simone said immediately. She wanted it done. She wanted to move on with her life. 3 days later, the money appeared in her account. $320 million. More money than she'd ever imagined having. More money than she knew what to do with. Her first call was to Patricia. The money's in. Your fee. Already wired, Patricia said. 40% as agreed. Congratulations, Simone. You earned this. Her second call was to Nicole. Want to go shopping for a new apartment? I think I can afford something nicer than your guest room. Nicole laughed. How about you buy a house? A big one. With a pool and a garden and room for all the friends you're about to make now that you're rich. I don't want people to be my friends because I'm rich. Then let me help you figure out who's real and who's not. That's what real friends do. Simone did buy a house. But not a mansion. A comfortable 4-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood with good schools nearby. Even though she didn't have kids yet, she liked the idea of living somewhere families thrived. She bought nice furniture but nothing ostentatious. She got a new car, a reliable sedan, not a sports car. She lived simply because she didn't want the money to change who she was. What she did spend money on was helping others. She started with the hospital where she worked. She donated $2 million to fund scholarships for nursing students from low-income backgrounds. She established a program to help hospital staff with childcare expenses. She funded better break rooms and mental health resources for overworked nurses. You don't have to do this, her supervisor said when Simone presented the check. You could retire. Travel. Enjoy your life. I am enjoying my life, Simone replied. I'm a nurse. Helping people is what I do. Now I just get to help more people. But the real dream, the one she'd been thinking about since the day she won, was the Grace Foundation. She hired a nonprofit consultant to help her structure it properly. She rented office space. She hired staff. And then she launched the Grace Foundation with a clear mission, to help women leaving abusive relationships. The foundation provided 3 main services: emergency financial assistance for women who needed to escape dangerous situations, legal aid for women fighting for their assets in divorces, and business grants for women starting their own companies. The response was overwhelming. Within a week, the foundation received over 500 applications for assistance. Every application was a story like Simone's. Women who'd been used, manipulated, stolen from. Women who'd supported men who gave nothing back. Women who were fighting to reclaim their lives. Simone read every application personally. She cried over many of them. And she funded as many as she could. One application came from a woman named Tasha who'd supported her husband through law school only to have him leave her for a younger woman the week after he passed the bar exam. Simone gave her $50,000 to start over. Another came from a woman named Brielle whose husband had emptied their accounts and disappeared. Simone funded her legal fees to track him down and recover the money. One by one, Simone helped women rebuild. And every time she did, she thought about her mother. About Grace teaching kids who had nothing. About Grace giving everything to make others' lives better. The money wasn't just Simone's anymore. It was Grace's legacy. And Simone was going to make sure it counted. Meanwhile, Trevor's life was falling apart. Without the lottery money, he had nothing. The house Simone had signed over to him was mortgaged to the maximum. He'd been taking out loans against it to fund his lifestyle. Now he couldn't make the payments and the bank was foreclosing. Amber left him 2 weeks after the verdict. According to Nicole, who heard it from someone who heard it from someone else, Amber had moved on to a real estate developer she'd met at a charity event. Trevor was devastated. Simone's investigator kept tabs on Trevor, not because Simone asked him to, but because he wanted to make sure Trevor didn't try anything desperate. The reports showed Trevor moving into a cheap apartment, working as a car salesman, barely making ends meet. Some of Simone's friends thought she should feel satisfied by his downfall. But she didn't. She felt nothing. Trevor wasn't part of her life anymore. His successes and failures were irrelevant to her. She'd moved on. 3 months after claiming the prize, Simone hosted the Grace Foundation's first fundraiser. She invited everyone who'd helped her. Patricia, Nicole, her nursing colleagues, the women she'd helped through the foundation. She rented a beautiful venue, hired caterers, and gave a speech about her mother and the importance of helping each other. Grace Washington taught me that the purpose of life is to help others, Simone said to the crowd. She lived that every day as a teacher. And when she died, she left me money specifically to protect myself. She knew I'd need it. She knew I was too trusting. And because of her wisdom, I had the resources to fight for what was mine. Now I want to use those resources to help other women fight for what's theirs. Because nobody should have to face what I faced alone. The applause was deafening. Women lined up afterwards to share their stories, to thank her, to tell her that her fight had inspired them. One woman, an older black woman with gray hair and kind eyes, grabbed Simone's hand. "Your mother would be so proud of you, baby. You took something terrible and turned it into something beautiful. That's real strength." Simone cried right there in the middle of her own event. Because the woman was right. Grace would be proud. That night, Nicole drove Simone home. They sat in the driveway of Simone's new house, neither of them quite ready to say goodnight. "You did good, girl," Nicole said. "You really did. I couldn't have done it without you. Without Patricia. Without everyone who believed in me. No, this was all you. You fought. You stood up for yourself. You didn't back down even when it would have been easier to just take Trevor's settlement offer and walk away. You saw it through to the end." "I had to. For Mom. And for yourself," Nicole said firmly. "Don't forget that part. You did this for you too. Because you deserved better than how Trevor treated you." Simone nodded. She was still learning that lesson, that she deserved good things. That she didn't have to make herself small to make room for someone else's ego. That she could take up space and demand respect and refuse to settle for less than she deserved. It was hard. After years of being told she wasn't enough, believing she was enough didn't come naturally. But she was working on it. Every day. Every woman she helped through the foundation. Every time she looked at her bank account and remembered that she'd fought for that money and won. Every time she walked into her own home, her home that nobody could take from her, and felt safe. She was building a new life. A better life. A life where she didn't need anyone else to validate her worth because she knew her own value. That was the real victory. Not the money. The self-knowledge. The strength. The certainty that she would never again let someone treat her as disposable. Trevor had taught her a valuable lesson, though he'd never intended to. The people who love you don't use you. They don't steal from you. They don't throw you away when something shinier comes along. Real love was what Nicole showed her. What Patricia showed her by fighting so hard for her case. What her mother had shown her by leaving her that money and begging her to protect herself. Real love was what she was building with the women in the Grace Foundation. A community of survivors who supported each other, who celebrated each other's victories and mourned each other's losses, who understood what it meant to rebuild your life from nothing. Simone was exactly where she needed to be. Finally. The final divorce hearing was almost anticlimactic after the intensity of the lottery trial. Simone and Trevor sat on opposite sides of the courtroom while their lawyers handled the paperwork. The settlement was straightforward. The marriage was dissolved, all assets were divided according to the court's previous ruling, and Trevor was ordered to pay Simone's legal fees, which he would probably never be able to afford. Judge Crawford signed the papers without ceremony. "This marriage is officially dissolved. Good luck to both of you." Just like that, 8 years of marriage ended. Trevor tried to approach Simone on the way out. "Can we talk? Please?" Simone stopped and looked at him. He'd aged in the months since the trial. His face was thinner, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He looked tired and beaten down. "There's nothing to say, Trevor. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I didn't think you'd actually fight me. I thought you'd just give up like you always did." Simone felt something cold settle in her chest. Like I always did? You know what I mean. You were always so passive. So willing to go along with whatever I wanted. I thought this would be the same. You thought I'd let you steal $600 million from me? I thought you'd be reasonable. I thought we could share it. Simone shook her head slowly. Trevor, you never wanted to share anything with me. You wanted me to give you everything and be grateful you let me. That's not a marriage. That's not even a friendship. That's just use. I loved you. No. You loved what I could do for you. You loved having someone pay your bills and cook your meals and make you feel important. But you never loved me. Because if you loved me, you never could have done what you did. Trevor's face crumpled. I lost everything. Amber's gone. The house is foreclosed. I'm working retail. I have nothing. You have exactly what you gave to our marriage. Nothing. Simone walked away. Patricia was waiting by the exit along with Nicole. Feel good? Patricia asked. Surprisingly, yes, Simone admitted. For a long time I felt guilty. Like maybe I should have tried harder or been better or something. But seeing him just now, I realized I didn't fail at the marriage. You did. I gave everything. You took everything. And now he's facing the consequences of his choices while I'm building something beautiful. Patricia smiled. Now that's the attitude of a winner. So what's next? Honestly, I'm going to work. I've got 30 applications to review for the foundation, and tomorrow I'm meeting with a group of lawyers about expanding our legal aid program to more states. Nicole laughed. Girl, you're worth over $300 million. You could be on a beach somewhere sipping cocktails. I could. But that's not who I am. I'm a nurse. I help people. Now I just get to help more people in more ways. And she did. Over the next 6 months, the Grace Foundation expanded rapidly. Simone hired more staff, opened satellite offices in 3 other states, and helped over 2,000 women leave abusive relationships. The foundation funded emergency housing, provided legal assistance, and offered business grants to help women start over. The media loved the story. Simone appeared on talk shows and news programs, always with the same message. You don't have to accept being treated badly. You can fight back. You can win. And when you do, you can help others do the same. Her story inspired other women to come forward. Women who'd been in similar situations shared their experiences. Some of them applied to the foundation for help. Others just wanted to say thank you for showing them that fighting back was possible. One letter Simone received stuck with her. Dear Simone, I was married to a man like Trevor for 12 years. He used me, manipulated me, and eventually stole everything I'd worked for. But I was too scared to fight back. I thought I deserved it somehow. Then I saw your story. I saw you stand up to your husband in court. I saw you win. And I realized that if you could do it, maybe I could too. So I filed for divorce. I'm fighting for my business that my husband tried to steal. And I'm not giving up. Thank you for showing me that women like us don't have to be victims. We can be warriors. Rachel. Simone framed that letter and hung it in her office. It reminded her why the foundation mattered. Why her fight had mattered. Not just for herself, but for every woman who'd ever been told she was worthless or stupid or too demanding for wanting to be treated with basic respect. The foundation also attracted attention from other nonprofit leaders and donors. Simone used her platform to amplify other organizations doing similar work. She donated to domestic violence shelters, legal aid clinics, and job training programs. She became a voice for women's economic empowerment, speaking at conferences and universities about the importance of financial independence. And through it all, she remained grounded. She still lived in her modest 4-bedroom house. She still drove her sensible sedan. She still worked part-time at the hospital, not because she needed the money but because she loved nursing. She loved helping patients. She loved the routine and purpose it gave her life. Her colleagues at the hospital treated her the same as always. They'd made a pact. Inside the hospital, Simone was just Simone. A nurse. A friend. A colleague. The lottery money didn't matter there. How's it going with the foundation? One of the other nurses asked during a break one day. Good. Really good. We helped a woman last week get out of a situation where her husband was controlling all the finances. We paid for her to move across the country to start fresh. She called yesterday to say she'd found a job and an apartment. She's rebuilding. That's amazing. You know what else is amazing? You're doing all this and you still show up for shifts. You didn't have to. Simone smiled. Yes, I did. This is who I am. The money didn't change that. Well, we're lucky to have you. That evening, Simone went home to find Nicole waiting on her porch with takeout food and wine. What's the occasion? Simone asked. No occasion. Just wanted to hang out with my best friend who happens to be rich and famous now. They ate dinner on Simone's back deck watching the sunset. It was peaceful. Normal. Exactly what Simone needed. You ever think about dating again? Nicole asked casually. Not really. I'm focused on the foundation and work. Simone, you're 36 years old. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You can't let what Trevor did make you give up on love. I'm not giving up on love. I'm just not looking for it right now. Maybe someday. But right now I'm happy. I'm doing meaningful work. I have good friends. I have purpose. That's enough. Nicole nodded. Okay. But if you ever change your mind, there's a very attractive architect who's been asking about you. He works with the construction company we used for the foundation's new building. He saw you at the opening ceremony and asked if you were single. Nicole? I'm not pushing. I'm just saying. His name is Kenneth. He's kind, smart, and he builds houses for low-income families in his spare time. Seems like your type. Simone laughed. I don't have a type anymore. My type was apparently unemployed users, so maybe I need to work on that. Fair point. But not all men are like Trevor. Some of them are actually decent humans. I know. I need more time. And that was okay. Simone didn't owe anyone a relationship. She didn't have to be ready to date just because other people thought she should be. She could take all the time she needed to heal and rebuild and figure out who she was without someone else defining her. Meanwhile, word about Trevor's situation continued to filter back through mutual acquaintances. He'd been fired from his car sales job after only 3 months. He was couch surfing with various friends. He tried to contact several women he'd dated in college, but they'd all rejected him after learning his story. Simone heard all of this and felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not pity. Just indifference. Trevor was no longer part of her life. His successes and failures didn't impact her. She truly moved on. One Saturday, Simone was volunteering at a women's shelter, something she did every other weekend, when a young woman approached her hesitantly. Are you Simone Washington? The lottery winner? I am. I wanted to thank you. My mom left my dad last year after seeing your story on the news. She'd been with him for 20 years and he treated her terribly. But she thought she couldn't leave. She thought she had nowhere to go. Then she saw you on TV talking about the Grace Foundation. She applied for help and you gave her money to get her own apartment and pay for a lawyer. She got custody of us kids and child support. We have our own place now. We're safe. And it's because of you. Tears filled Simone's eyes. What's your mom's name? Christina Lopez. Simone remembered the case. A woman with 3 kids, trying to escape a husband who'd been physically and financially abusive for 2 decades. The foundation had given her $30,000 for emergency housing, legal fees, and job training. How is your mom doing? She's great. She got a job at a bank. We're happy. Really happy. She says she feels free for the first time in her life. Simone hugged the girl. Tell your mom I'm proud of her. And I'm proud of you for being brave and leaving with her. That takes courage. You inspired her. You inspired all of us. After the girl left, Simone sat in her car for a long time. This was why she fought. This was why the money mattered. Not for fancy houses or expensive cars or luxury vacations. For moments like this. For families who were safe and happy because she'd had the courage to stand up for herself. Grace would have loved this. Grace had spent her life helping kids who needed it. Now Simone was spending her money helping families who needed it. The legacy continued. That night, Simone updated the foundation's website with new statistics. 3,000 women helped in the first year, $15 million distributed, 85% success rate for women establishing independent lives. The numbers were impressive. But more impressive were the stories. The women who'd rebuilt their lives. The kids who were safe now. The families that were thriving instead of just surviving. Simone had turned her worst experience into something meaningful. She'd taken Trevor's betrayal and transformed it into hope for thousands of women. That was power. Real power. Not the power of money, though that helped. The power of choosing to help others instead of becoming bitter. The power of using pain as motivation to prevent others from suffering the same way. Simone looked at the photo of her mother on her desk. I hope I'm making you proud, Mom. I hope this is what you wanted. I hope wherever you are, you can see that your money changed lives. Not just mine. Thousands of lives. The photo didn't answer, of course. But Simone felt Grace's presence anyway. In the work she did. In the women she helped. In the legacy she was building. Grace had given Simone $20,000 to protect herself. Simone had turned it into $300 million to protect others. That felt like exactly the right thing to do. 1 year after claiming the lottery prize, Simone stood at the podium of a packed conference center in Los Angeles. Behind her, a screen displayed the Grace Foundation's first annual report. 5,000 women helped, $25 million distributed, programs in 8 states. When I started this foundation, Simone said to the audience of donors, nonprofit leaders, and journalists, I had one goal: make sure no other woman had to face what I faced alone. Make sure every woman who's been used, manipulated, or stolen from has the resources to fight back and win. Today I'm proud to say we're doing that. But we're just getting started. She clicked to the next slide. This year we're expanding our legal aid program to all 50 states. We're partnering with law schools to provide free representation for women in asset disputes. We're launching a financial literacy program to teach women how to protect their money and build wealth. And we're creating a network of safe houses for women who need to leave dangerous situations immediately. The applause was thunderous. Simone smiled, but inside she felt the weight of responsibility. Every dollar she spent had to count. Every program had to work. Women were depending on her. After the presentation, dozens of people wanted to talk to her. Other nonprofit leaders wanted to collaborate. Journalists wanted interviews. Donors wanted to contribute. But the conversation that mattered most came from a woman who waited until everyone else had left. Ms. Washington? I'm Detective Maria Santos from the LAPD. I work in financial crimes. I've been following your case and your foundation, and I wanted to talk to you about something. Simone gestured to the chairs nearby. Of course. What's on your mind? Detective Santos pulled out a folder. We've been investigating cases of financial abuse and fraud. What you experienced? The manipulation, the hidden affairs funded by joint accounts, the property transfers under false pretenses, it's more common than most people realize. And it's often not prosecuted because victims don't report it or don't have the resources to pursue justice. But your case made national news. It put a spotlight on these issues. And we want to do something about it. What do you mean? I'm proposing a partnership. The LAPD will work with the Grace Foundation to identify and prosecute cases of severe financial abuse. We'll train officers to recognize the patterns. We'll fast-track investigations when women come forward. And we'll make it clear that stealing from your spouse has real legal consequences, not just civil ones. Simone leaned forward. You want to make financial abuse a criminal matter? In cases of fraud, yes. If someone empties joint accounts, forges signatures on property transfers, or uses marital funds for affairs without disclosure, that's fraud. It should be prosecuted as such. But most victims don't know they can press charges. They think it's just a civil divorce matter. We want to change that. This could help so many women, Simone said slowly. Exactly. And having the Grace Foundation as a partner gives us credibility. Women trust you. They'll come forward if they know we're serious about helping them. They spent the next hour discussing details. By the time Detective Santos left, Simone had agreed to a pilot program in Los Angeles. The foundation would fund additional detectives specializing in financial abuse cases. They'd provide victims with legal support and counseling. And they'd work to change laws to make financial abuse easier to prosecute. It was ambitious. Maybe too ambitious. But Simone had learned that sometimes the most important work was the work that seemed impossible. Over the next few months, the foundation grew exponentially. Simone hired a full executive team to handle day-to-day operations so she could focus on strategy and expansion. She brought on former prosecutors to run the legal aid program. She partnered with business schools to offer entrepreneurship training for women starting companies. She even launched a venture capital fund specifically for women-owned businesses. The money was going out faster than she'd expected, but it was making a real difference. Women were leaving abusive relationships, starting businesses, buying homes, sending kids to college. The foundation was changing lives. One day Nicole called with news. You're not going to believe this. Trevor applied to the foundation for help. Simone nearly dropped her phone. What? He submitted an application claiming he's a victim of financial abuse because you won the lottery money and he got nothing. He wants the foundation to fund a lawsuit against you for emotional distress caused by the divorce. Simone was quiet for a long moment. Then she started laughing. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. That's the most Trevor thing I've ever heard, she finally said. He steals from me, throws me out, tries to take everything, loses in court, and now wants me to fund his lawsuit against me for losing? Pretty much. Obviously the foundation denied the application immediately. But I thought you'd want to know. Does he realize I run the foundation? Like, does he understand that his application went directly to me? Apparently not. The application was something. He claimed you manipulated the legal system and turned people against him unfairly, and that he's struggling to survive because of your vindictive actions. Simone shook her head. He learned nothing. After everything, he still thinks he's the victim. Some people never change. You want me to send you a copy of the application? It's genuinely wild. No. I don't want to waste another second thinking about Trevor. He made his choices. He's living with the consequences. That's not my problem anymore. And it wasn't. Simone realized she'd reached a point where Trevor was just a cautionary tale she sometimes shared when speaking at events. A reminder of what not to accept in a relationship. A lesson about the importance of protecting yourself financially. He was no longer real to her. Just a bad memory that was fading more every day. Meanwhile, the foundation's success attracted attention from unexpected places. Oprah's team reached out about featuring Simone on the show. Forbes asked to interview her about building wealth and giving back. Harvard Business School invited her to speak about social entrepreneurship. Simone said yes to some opportunities and no to others. She was learning to manage her time and energy. She couldn't say yes to everything even though she wanted to help everyone. But there was one invitation she couldn't refuse. The National Women's Conference in Washington, D.C. It was the largest gathering of women leaders in the country, and they wanted Simone to give the keynote speech. She spent weeks preparing. She wanted to get it right. This was her chance to reach thousands of women at once, to inspire them, to encourage them to demand better for themselves. The night of the speech, Simone stood backstage, more nervous than she'd been in the courtroom. This was different. This mattered differently. Nicole squeezed her hand. You've got this. Just speak from your heart like you always do. Simone walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. 10,000 women stood and cheered. She saw young women and old women. Black women and white women and Latino women and Asian women. Women from every background imaginable, united by the shared experience of being underestimated, overlooked, undervalued. She waited for the applause to die down. Then she began. 3 years ago, I was a nurse working 60-hour weeks to support a husband who gave me nothing in return. I was tired. I was taken for granted. I was invisible. And I accepted it because I thought that's what love looked like. I thought sacrifice meant making myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. The room was completely silent. Then my mother died. And she left me $20,000 with very specific instructions. Keep it separate. Protect yourself. She knew what I didn't want to admit, that I was in a relationship where I wasn't valued. She wanted me to have a safety net. That $20,000 saved my life. Not because of what it could buy, but because of what it represented. My mother's love and wisdom protecting me even after she was gone. Simone took a breath. I used $5 of that money to buy a lottery ticket. Numbers that meant something to me. Family dates. Important moments. I won. $600 million. And my husband stole it. He threw me out of our house, moved in his mistress and tried to take everything. She paused. But I fought back. I hired a lawyer. I gathered evidence. I went to court. And I won. Not just the money, I won my self-respect. I won my freedom. I won the right to live a life where I'm valued and respected. And then I used that money to help other women do the same thing. The applause started again, but Simone held up her hand. I'm not telling you this story to brag or to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this because every woman in this room has been underestimated by someone. Every woman here has been told she's too much or not enough. Every woman here has made herself smaller to make someone else comfortable. And I'm here to tell you, stop. Stop making yourself small. Stop accepting less than you deserve. Stop letting people use you because it's easier than fighting back. Her voice grew stronger. We teach people how to treat us. And if we accept being treated badly, we're teaching them that it's okay. It's not okay. You deserve respect. You deserve equality. You deserve to keep what you earn. You deserve relationships that are partnerships, not parasitic arrangements where one person gives everything and the other takes everything. 10,000 women were on their feet now, applauding, cheering. Use your voice. Protect your money. Know your worth. And when someone shows you they don't value you, believe them and walk away. Don't wait for them to change. Don't make excuses. Don't convince yourself it will get better. Walk away. And then build something so amazing that they regret losing you every single day for the rest of their lives. The applause was deafening. Women were crying. Simone was crying. Nicole was crying backstage. My mother gave me $20,000 to protect myself, Simone concluded. I turned it into $300 million to protect others. That's the power of women supporting women. That's the power of refusing to be a victim. That's the power of taking something terrible and transforming it into something beautiful. Thank you. She walked off stage to a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. Women lined up afterwards to hug her, thank her, share their stories. One elderly woman grabbed Simone's hands. I stayed in a bad marriage for 40 years because I didn't think I had any other choice. I didn't have money of my own. I didn't have family nearby. I felt trapped. Your story made me realize that even at 72 years old, I can still leave. I can still choose myself. Thank you for giving me courage. That night, lying in her hotel room, Simone thought about the woman. About all the women she'd met that day. About the thousands of women the foundation had helped and the thousands more who still needed help. The work would never be finished. There would always be more women to help, more systems to change, more battles to fight. But that was okay. Simone had found her purpose. This was what she was meant to do with her life. Not just survive but thrive. And help others thrive too. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Her heart skipped. Trevor? But no. Hi Simone, this is Kenneth. Nicole gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I wanted to tell you I saw your speech tonight and it was incredible. Also, I'd love to take you to dinner sometime if you're interested. No pressure. Kenneth. Simone smiled. The architect Nicole had mentioned months ago. She'd thought about him occasionally but hadn't been ready. Was she ready now? She looked at her mother's photo on her phone's lock screen. Grace smiled back at her, frozen forever in time. What would her mother say? Grace would say, take a chance. Be open to love. But protect yourself. Know your worth. Never settle. Simone typed back, hi Kenneth. Dinner sounds nice. I'm back in LA next weekend if that works. His response came immediately, that works perfectly. Looking forward to it. Simone put her phone down and smiled. Maybe she was ready. Maybe it was time to see if she could build something with someone who actually deserved her. Or maybe the dinner would be terrible and she'd go back to focusing on work. Either way was fine. She'd learned the most important lesson. She didn't need anyone else to complete her. She was whole on her own. A relationship would be nice, but it wasn't necessary. That was freedom. Real freedom. And she'd fought hard to get it. The Grace Foundation's first annual gala took place 1 year after Simone's keynote speech at the National Women's Conference. The venue was a converted warehouse in downtown Los Angeles, decorated elegantly but not ostentatiously. Simone had insisted on that. The money should go to helping women, not impressing donors. Over 500 people attended. Women the foundation had helped. Donors, volunteers, journalists, nonprofit leaders, and a few special guests including Patricia Monroe, who'd become not just Simone's lawyer but her friend and advisor. Simone wore a simple blue dress, her mother's favorite color, and her mother's gold cross. She kept her jewelry minimal, her makeup natural. She wanted people focused on the mission, not her appearance. Kenneth stood beside her, greeting guests. They'd been dating for 8 months now. He was everything Trevor hadn't been. Kind, supportive, genuinely interested in her work. He built affordable housing for low-income families and volunteered at homeless shelters. They had actual conversations about making the world better. You look nervous, Kenneth said quietly. I am. This is important. We're celebrating what we've accomplished but also launching new initiatives. I want it to be perfect. It will be. Because you're running it. Simone squeezed his hand gratefully. Kenneth understood that the foundation came first. He supported her work without trying to compete with it for her attention. That was new for Simone, being with someone who encouraged her passions instead of resenting them. The program began with testimonials from women the foundation had helped. Christina Lopez, the woman whose daughter had thanked Simone at the shelter, spoke about escaping an abusive marriage and building a new life. A woman named Yolanda shared how the foundation's business grant had helped her start a catering company that now employed 15 people. Another woman, Susan, talked about how the foundation's legal aid program had helped her recover money her ex-husband had stolen. Story after story of women who'd been broken and rebuilt. Women who'd been dismissed and had proven everyone wrong. Women who'd survived and thrived. Then it was Simone's turn. She walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd. She saw Nicole in the front row wiping away tears. She saw Patricia nodding encouragement. She saw the faces of women she'd helped, women she'd met, women who'd become friends. 2 years ago, Simone began, I was standing in my living room watching my husband celebrate winning the lottery with his mistress. He was holding a ticket I'd bought with my dead mother's life insurance money. He told me to pack my bags. He said I was worthless. He said he didn't need me anymore. The room was silent. He was right about one thing: he didn't need me. But not because I was worthless. Because I was worth more than he could ever understand. Because I had something he never had: integrity, strength, the ability to care about others, and the courage to fight for what was right. Simone smiled. That night I could have given up. I could have accepted his version of events. I could have walked away and tried to rebuild with nothing. Instead, I fought. I hired Patricia Monroe, the best lawyer I could find. I gathered evidence. I went to court. And I won. Not because the system is always fair. It's not. Not because good things always happen to good people. They don't. I won because I refused to quit. Because my mother taught me that sometimes love means fighting for yourself, not just for others. She clicked to a slide showing the foundation's impact numbers. In 2 years, the Grace Foundation has helped over 8,000 women. We've distributed $50 million in emergency aid, legal support, and business grants. We've partnered with law enforcement to prosecute financial abuse as a crime. We've changed laws in 12 states to make it easier for women to protect their assets. And we're just getting started. The applause began, but Simone continued. This year we're launching the Grace Institute, a program that will teach women financial literacy, business skills, and legal rights. We're opening 3 new offices in underserved communities. We're creating a hotline for women who need immediate help. And we're establishing a scholarship fund to help daughters of domestic abuse survivors go to college. She paused. My mother was a teacher. She spent 35 years educating kids who needed her. She gave everything to her work. And when she died, she left me $20,000 to protect myself. She wanted me safe. She wanted me valued. She wanted me free. I used that money to buy a lottery ticket that changed my life. But more importantly, I used it to change thousands of other lives. Mom, if you're listening, Simone looked up as if Grace could hear her. I hope I'm making you proud. I hope this is the legacy you wanted. I hope wherever you are, you know that your gift kept giving. That your love protected not just me but thousands of other daughters, mothers, sisters. The room erupted in applause. Simone wiped her eyes. She wasn't ashamed of the tears. They were proof that she still felt everything. That Trevor hadn't taken that from her. After the speeches, Simone mingled with guests. She hugged women she'd helped. She thanked donors. She posed for photos with volunteers. Kenneth stayed close but not hovering. Just present. Supportive. Late in the evening, Patricia pulled Simone aside. I have news you're going to enjoy. What? Trevor tried to sue you. Again. For defamation this time, claiming your speeches about financial abuse have damaged his reputation and made it impossible for him to find work. Simone sighed. Of course he did. What happened? The judge threw it out immediately. Told him that truth is an absolute defense against defamation and that everything you've said about him is documented fact from the trial. Then she sanctioned him for filing a frivolous lawsuit and ordered him to pay your legal fees. Again. Simone couldn't help but laugh. He really never learns. Some people don't. But that's not our problem. Patricia smiled. You know what our problem is? We're too successful. We have more applications than we can handle. We need to expand again. Then we'll expand. We'll find more funding. We'll hire more staff. We'll do whatever it takes. That's what I like to hear. As the gala wound down, Simone found herself standing alone on the balcony overlooking the city. The lights of Los Angeles stretched out in every direction. Millions of people living their lives, facing their struggles, fighting their battles. Kenneth joined her. You okay? Better than okay. I'm happy. Actually happy. For the first time in years, maybe ever. You deserve it. I'm starting to believe that. Simone turned to him. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I'm not the easiest person to date. The foundation takes up so much of my time and energy. The foundation is part of who you are. I wouldn't change that. Besides, watching you help people is one of the things I love about you. Simone froze. Love. Kenneth had just said love. Sorry, he said quickly. Too soon? I can take it back. Don't take it back. Simone smiled. I'm not ready to say it yet, but I'm getting there. And that feels good. Scary but good. I can wait. I'm good at waiting. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Simone thought about how far she'd come. From that horrible night when Trevor threw her out, to this moment of peace and purpose and possibility. The journey hadn't been easy. She'd cried more tears than she could count. She doubted herself constantly. She'd wondered if fighting was worth it. But standing here now, with the foundation thriving and Kenneth beside her and her mother's legacy alive in the work she did every day, yes, it had been worth it. Every sleepless night reviewing legal documents. Every court appearance. Every terrifying moment when she thought she might lose. Every dollar spent fighting for what was right. Worth it. Because she hadn't just won money. She'd won her self-respect. Her independence. Her future. And she'd used those wins to help thousands of other women win theirs. That was power. Real, lasting power. The kind that changed the world one life at a time. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. Just got an email from a woman in Texas who wants to start a Grace Foundation chapter there. She said your gala inspired her. We're going national, girl. Simone smiled and typed back, let's do it. The foundation was growing beyond her wildest dreams. Soon it would be in every state. Soon it would help tens of thousands of women, maybe hundreds of thousands. Soon it would be big enough that it could continue even without her direct involvement. That was the goal. Build something sustainable. Something that would outlast her. Something that would carry her mother's name and legacy forward for generations. Grace Washington had spent 35 years teaching kids who needed her. Now the Grace Foundation would spend decades helping women who needed it. The work would continue. The mission would evolve. But the core purpose, helping people build better lives, would remain. That night, after the gala ended and the guests went home, Simone sat in her office at the foundation's headquarters. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out the original lottery receipt. The one that had started everything. $5 spent on April 6th at Pete's Corner Store. $5 that turned into $600 million. $5 that changed thousands of lives. She looked at the numbers on the ticket. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, Powerball 9. Her mother's birthday. Her birthday. The day her mother died. The age her mother would have been. Her parents' anniversary. The day of the month she was born. Numbers that meant family. Numbers that meant love. Numbers that meant memory and loss and hope. Trevor had never bothered to ask about the numbers. He'd just seen dollar signs. He'd seen money and power and the ability to buy whatever he wanted. But the numbers were never about money. They were about Grace. About the woman who'd raised Simone alone, worked tirelessly to give her a good life, and protected her even from beyond the grave. Simone placed the receipt back in her desk drawer. She wouldn't frame it or display it. It wasn't a trophy. It was a reminder. A reminder of where she'd been and how far she'd come. A reminder that sometimes the smallest decisions have the biggest impacts. A reminder that her mother's love had saved her in more ways than one. She turned off the lights and locked up the office. Tomorrow she had meetings with 3 new corporate donors who wanted to support the foundation. Next week she was flying to New York to speak at a legal conference about financial abuse. Next month she was testifying before Congress about proposed legislation to protect victims of economic coercion. The work never stopped. But Simone didn't mind. This was her purpose. This was why she'd survived everything with Trevor. This was why her mother had left her that money. This was why she'd had the courage to fight. Not to get rich. Not to get revenge. But to build something meaningful. Something that mattered. Something that would make the world a little bit better. As she drove home, Simone thought about Trevor one last time. Not with anger or bitterness. Just with a strange sort of gratitude. He'd taught her what she would never accept again. He'd shown her exactly how strong she was. He'd given her the motivation to build something bigger than herself. His betrayal had been the catalyst for her transformation. Without him stealing that ticket, she might never have found her courage. She might never have fought back. She might never have started the foundation. In a twisted way, Trevor had done her a favor. He'd destroyed the small, scared version of Simone and forced her to become someone stronger. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who refused to settle. She'd never thank him for it. But she could acknowledge that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best things we do. Simone pulled into her driveway. Her house was dark except for the porch light Kenneth had left on for her. Inside, she knew she'd find him reading on the couch, waiting to hear about her day. That was new. Coming home to someone who actually cared. Someone who wanted to hear about her work instead of resenting it. Someone who supported her dreams instead of trying to make her smaller. Maybe love could be different this time. Maybe she could build something healthy with Kenneth. Or maybe they wouldn't last. Either way, Simone knew she'd be fine. Because she'd learned the most important lesson. She didn't need anyone else to complete her. She was whole on her own. She was enough. And that realization, That certainty was worth more than $600 million. Simone walked into her house. Kenneth looked up from his book and smiled. How was it? Perfect, Simone said. Everything was perfect. And she meant it. Not because her life was perfect, it wasn't. Not because every problem was solved, they weren't. But because she'd fought for something that mattered and won. Because she'd turned pain into purpose. Because she'd honored her mother's memory in the best way possible. Grace Washington would have been proud. And honestly, Simone was pretty proud of herself too. The journey from that horrible night to this peaceful moment had been long and hard. But she'd made it. She'd survived. She'd thrived. And tomorrow she'd wake up and do it all again. Help more women. Fight more battles. Change more lives. Because that's what warriors do. They don't quit. They don't give up. They keep fighting until everyone who needs help gets it. Simone Washington was a warrior. And her war on injustice was just beginning.